Greetings, everyone. I'm Mar. Once again, this is my opinion. Now we're coming to one of my favorite holiday themed episodes of Everybody Loves Raymond. And just from memory, off the top of my head, I think this is actually my favorite, just from a fun standpoint. There's going to be later episodes that have a good balance of drama and comedy, but just from a pure comedy standpoint, this is it. There is a little bit of drama, but it's just a little bit of drama to drive the comedy forward. That, of course, is Halloween Candy. Now, the drama of this episode involves Ray and Deborah's private life. I'm going to keep it PG with there, but I think you can kind of guess what type of private life it is. We actually start the episode with them setting the mood, only to find out they don't have the necessary equipment. Deborah doesn't have whatever cream she was going to use, and Ray doesn't have any condoms with him. Which the funny thing is, they don't use that word at all in this episode. A later commentary track, Phil Rosenthal even gives a reason why for that, and that is that from a comedic standpoint, it's funnier to allude to the object without saying it, which is why they use euphemisms throughout. Things, mainly. And it is funny just from like things. I don't like the things. Even though a later episode, I believe in season 6, the one where they do the skits for Frank and Marie's wedding anniversary, he does say condoms by name. But that's a different episode, and plus they're reminiscing about this event here. It's funnier in retrospect. Now, they have a little conversation, and Deborah suggests, maybe if you took some more responsibility, I might be inclined for more. And suggests that maybe Ray should go get a vasectomy, get fixed. Which is an aside, this is the first time I had ever heard that word as a preteen. I never heard that phrase. I knew about getting fixed before because my mother, after she had my younger brother Kyle, she got her tubes tied. So I know humans do that. I just didn't know what the term for the male version of it was. And then hearing it, I'm like, ah. And then not long after that is when I read Stephen King's It, which is a minor plot point for one of the characters' backgrounds as he gets older. So it's like two for finding out about it. Of course, that's how I also found out that they can sometimes undo themselves, or at least in the older procedures. I don't know about the more modern ones. I know you can still reverse it, but I don't know if they can still undo themselves naturally. But back on point, Ray decides he's going to go through with it. Then he talks to Andy and Robert at Nemo's, which is a nice little window dressing to show it's Halloween, and we get to see Nemo and his staff in Halloween costume. Nemo is some tropical-like girl. One of the waitresses is the devil, and then, of course, Nemo's niece dressed as a nun, which the way Andy says his line just gets me good. Please whack me with your ruler. he's a right in there, and then Robert, she's going to spit in our food. Just the way he says that, you know that he's like, oh, why do I freaking hang out with this guy? Well, Ray tells both of them what he's planning on doing. And Robert, you can tell from the way he's reacting when he hears this, is like, is Deborah okay with this? He's concerned about his brother, and he tells him a story about a guy that he went to the academy with, that they worked together. He got fixed, and it changed. Which it doesn't go into it, and he uses euphemisms as well, but it sounds like that after he got fixed, that part of his life was never the same again, that he could not get in the mood. His anatomy was not what it once was. The euphemism that Robert uses is saluting the captain, which is a nice little dirty joke without being too dirty. If you're a kid and you hear it, you might not understand what he's saying, but as an adult, you're like, I knew what he meant even as a preteen watching it, because this whole episode they're talking about sex, but from there, you're like, it's like, poor guy, and you can tell with how Ray's mind is by this point in the show, you're like, he's not going to go through with it, but as he puts it, is when he tells Deborah, he's not a complete coward. He buys a box of condoms, but he gets the colored ones. One's blue, one's red, one's yellow. You only see them directly a couple times, you mainly see the box, but they're weirdly shaped, like it's just a condom thing and then something around it. But with what you see of them, you're like, okay, something's going to go on with them, especially since Ray has the bright idea of pouring them out of the box into the bag he bought him in and putting it up on the high shelf instead of taking him up to his bedroom like a smart guy. But of course, if he'd done that, there'd be no drama next, because they take the kids to go trick-or-treating, and Frank decides to hold down the fort. And when he runs out of candy, he scrambles, he finds the things up in the cupboard, and he mistakes them for chocolate coins, and he gives them out to the kids on Halloween. But you can imagine, once the parents start looking through their kids' Halloween candy, they're going to be like, oh no, who gave you this? And they complain, and Robert is the cop that shows up, which is a little weird, but you can imagine why they'd send Robert. I mean, decorated New York City police sergeant. Like, I can imagine the dashboard's getting a bunch of complaints from parents about a house in Limbrook giving away condoms on Halloween. I can imagine them being like, what's the address? Oh, wait a minute, address. 2-3 Sergeant? Yeah, isn't this your brother's address? Yes, what's going on? Oh, we're getting a couple complaints. Can you go do a safety check there, see if everything is code 4? At least that's how I imagine it, because when he shows up there, he's like, what's going on? I'm getting complaints about the treats coming from this house. And with how Deborah is, she has to call a bunch of people and apologize. No, it's not a political statement. And to top it all off, when Frank finds out what he actually gave away, which I question how he didn't notice after a bit. Like, the first couple, I can understand him not noticing, but after a bit you would think he'd be like, wait a tick. Uh-oh. Nope. So oblivious. But you would think someone of his age would know what a condom looks like and what it feels like, even if it's on a different type of wrapper. But nope. So oblivious. And just the way the Peter Boyle sells it when he finds out what they are. Robert leans in, whispers, he just looks at... He blames it all on Deborah by going, you are sick. Says the man who gave children condoms instead of candy on Halloween. Of course, the ending ends the only way that this one can. Ray's still trying to get one of them back from a kid, and he ends up getting chocolate instead. So I guess you can see he takes after his father in that regard. His father mistook condoms for candy, and he mistakes candy for condoms. Perfect way to end it. With Ray going, I hate Halloween! Writing standpoint, it's on point. This is another Steve Skrovan episode, and he always is on point with the comedy, with how the characters bounce off one another. Marie's the main member of the Barone family. He's in it the least, but considering the drama and everything, you can understand. She's only in 2 moments, and both are perfect. Beginning to take candy away from Frank, and then get the kids away from Ray and Deborah. And Peter Boyle, he's perfect in the moments he's there in. And I do love the tribute to young Frankenstein they have in this episode, where they actually have Peter Boyle as Frank dress up as Frankenstein. And that's a good audience moment when he walks into the house in the Frankenstein outfit. You can tell there's a little bit more enthusiasm behind the reactions. And Peter, the way he's playing it, Frankenstein, eat children. And then having Marie with the bride head dress. There's a good reaction there, too. Their little reactions. Give me back the candy, I need it. Rah! Doctor make bad bride. All that. Even now as an adult, I love those scenes even more. But at the time I saw this, it got a big reaction for me the first time. Yeah. Especially since, I was a big fan of Young Frankenstein, grew up with a handful of the Universal horror films, mainly the first couple ones, the Young Frankenstein mainly parodied, but it was lovely seeing that. Now, if there's one part of this episode I'm not really a good fan of, or should I say big fan of, it's one of Frank's scenes, and that is the first time we see him answer the door, and the kids get scared, and the mother that's with them scolds him. It's like, really? It's Halloween. Especially if you're dressed up as Frankenstein, you're going to be like, ah, as you're answering the door with it. I mean, if the kid gets scared a little bit, you come for the kid and all that, but don't scold Frank like he's intentionally scaring the kids. He's just getting into it because it's Halloween. And she's scolding him like he's jumping out of the bush, growling at the kids and trying to steal their Halloween candy. And again, they got to throw something in there. And if there's any redeeming factor about it, it's that when he tries to smile at the kids to cheer them back up, he still scares them. And that smile comes across as creepy. If you want to kind of an idea of what it looks like if you haven't seen the episode. Think how Jack Nicholson smiles in Little Shop of Horrors. Like a Joker-esque smile without all the makeup and prosthetics. And that's about what it is. The best type of one that Peter Boyle could pull off. There's also another little one where Peter Boyle plays the dirty old man when he asks Ray about the Naked Channel, and that smirk of his. That always gets a good reaction from me. It got a good reaction from my grandmother as well. It was one of the moments she always used to chuckle at. Ray does a pretty good acting job in this one, especially when he finds out the negatives about a vasectomy. The ending when he finds out he has the chocolate instead of the condom. He's like, ah! And Patricia Heaton, good as Deborah, and her mood going throughout, and she plays it well. And she looks good with the stewardess cap on. Brad Garrett, he's only in a handful of scenes, but he's good throughout. Always good to see Andy. Nice to see the characters of Nemo and Angelina in here. And of course, this is the second to last time we're going to see Joseph Perry, I believe his name is. Hold on. Yep, Joseph Perry in the role of Nemo. The last time we're going to see him is going to be in season 4, episode 8, Deborah's Workouts. Then after that, the few times we see him after that, it's a new actor because he passed away. It's nice to see him for when we see him. My favorite Nemo moments are with him because they had to use him few and far between with the new actor. And the only moment that really stands out with the next actor is in the last episode we see Nemo in, and that's when he's like, "Don't take a check from him." All in all, Halloween Candy is a pretty fun episode. Like I said, it's my favorite of the holiday-themed episodes just from a comedy standpoint. The situation, the opening drama, that's what you expect from a married couple. The situation they put themselves in, it definitely is something that could potentially happen in real life, but just from everything lining up in order to make for comedy, it's something you'd only see in a sitcom. So you do got to suspend your disbelief a little bit there. But if you're used to watching sitcoms, you already know how to do that. And of course, the comedy of errors that ensues afterwards, a lot of it's off screen, but seeing the characters react to the situation once they realize what the situation is, it makes for the perfect second act and the third act. Well, the episode is so hilarious. Especially with the young Frankenstein references thrown in there for good measure. Now, the next episode has a good balance of comedy and drama, and if you are watching this show for the first time, it is a subject that by this point in the series you're wondering it's ever going to happen, and that of course is Robert moving out. What will the catalyst be? Why? Where will he move? Will Amy move in with him? Some of these questions we're about to find the answer to.